Our freedom reveals God's power. Welcome to another episode of Morning Medz, your devotional spot for males to meditate on Yahweh's word for good success as, as defined in Joshua 1 verse 8. And we're grateful for your continued attention and application with our march with the scriptures today. Today, our topic is on Our Freedom Reveals God's Power. That's the title, and it's on the broader topic of hope. And why listen today? Because we want to receive information to mentor our families that Yah frees us so we can reveal His power. And when we reveal His power, we provoke others' boldness. So we want other people in our families, we want to be convinced in our own minds, and we want to share this conviction with our families that when we are free, it is a display of the power of God. So our freedom reveals Yah's power, and that display of power provokes boldness in others. We're looking at this from Acts 12, verses 12 to 18. And it's important again because many people don't understand why God frees us from sin. Why does He heal us? Why does He free us from addictions? Why does He break us free from bad mental habits like unforgiveness and egotistic traits and misogynistic traits, where we have a dislike for a woman or a hatred for women? Or why He frees us from theft or from being deceptive. He does that to reveal His power and His love. And through that display, He can attract others to a relationship with Him. And we know one of the biggest examples of this in the Hebrew Tanakh is the Passover story of the Hebrews being saved from Pharaoh's slavery. But today now we're looking at another example of God revealing His power in Acts 12, verses 12 to 18. We're going to read that in a minute. However, just a quick recap of our last episode of Morning Meds. And we looked in, and this is still from Acts 12, and we looked at Acts 27, in our previous episode, Acts 27, 14 to 25, about Paul being saved on a ship. And it was about God's salvation is contagious. And we said in the last episode, often when we are saved, we fall into the temptation of our own safety and comfort. But we want to train our families and mentor our families to understand that when Yahweh rescues us from sin and from other issues, He does so that we can become a source of salvation for others. And we must reject the temptation to give in to our immediate comfort and safety so that we can help to be a saving force for others. And that was in our previous episode. So today, let's focus on Acts 12, verse 12 to 18. Let's read that in a minute here. We read from 11 to 18. Acts 12, 11 to 18, and we're reading from a Good News translation. It reads, "Then Peter realized what had happened to him and said, 'Now I know that it is really true. The Lord sent His angel to rescue me from Herod's power and from everything the Jewish people expected to happen.' Aware of his situation, he went to the home of Mary, the mother of John Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at the outside door, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer it. She recognized Peter's voice and was so happy that she ran back in without opening the door and announced that Peter was standing outside. 'You are mad,' they told her, but she insisted that it was true. So they answered, 'It is his angel.' Meanwhile, Peter kept on knocking. At last they opened the door, and when they saw him, they were amazed. He motioned with his hand for them to be quiet, and he explained to them that the Lord had brought him out of prison. "Tell this to James and the rest of the believers," he said. Then he left and went somewhere else. Verse 18, when morning came, there was a tremendous confusion among the guards. What had happened to Peter? Herod gave orders to search for him, but they could not find him. So he had the guards questioned and ordered them to be put to death. After this, Herod left Judea and spent some time in Caesarea. So today we are looking at this concept that when Yahweh frees us, he does this as a display of his power. And our key verse 17 said, and the King James translation says, but he, Peter, beckoning unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how the Lord had brought them out of the prison. And he said, go show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. End quote from Acts 12, verse 17. Now, the Jesus movement is getting traction, as Philip, one of the other evangelists, had evangelized Samaria, and we spoke about Samaria, I believe, earlier, which was the northern kingdom of Israel that was sort of mixed with some Gentiles, and these are not genuine Jewish people anymore. I think this is Esarhaddon that did that in the Old Testament. So Samaria was evangelized by Philip. The Ethiopian eunuch is converted to the Jesus movement. The Hasidic religious terrorist Saul is also converted to the Jesus cult, as it was called back in the day, the Nazarene cult or sect. The Roman centurion Cornelius is filled with the Spirit. He becomes a Christian. The Gentile missionary center Antioch is established. So there's a lot of momentum that is taking place. Yes, there's a lot of persecution, there's a lot of chaos, but there's also a lot of momentum that is taking place in the Jesus movement. In the book of Acts, I believe the first 11 chapters show a lot of what is happening in the Jesus movement through the apostles being bold. Their own salvation is having a ripple effect in not just the Jewish community, but in the Roman community, in Samaria, which is a sort of mixed Jewish and Gentile community. The Judaistic leaders strike back at the Nazarene sect, or the cult, by the Jesus cult, as it was called back in the day, by going after the leaders of the Nazarene sect to decapitate the shepherd. So the sheep are scattered without any leadership. And Jesus did tell them that this is what would happen. So they go after James, and now they go after Peter. These are the religious leaders of the day and the political leaders of the day. They're trying to stop the momentum of the Jesus movement by going after the leaders. They have gone after James, the brother of John. Now they're going after Peter. And they have him locked up in jail. The believers are praying, but even though they're praying, we're going to see that they're praying without a full expectation that what was going to happen would happen so quickly, that Yah would really save Peter in such a miraculous way. The strategy backfires. The strategy, of course, of going after the leadership of the Christian church, including Peter. They had already beheaded James, the brother of John. Now they're going after Peter. They want to stop this momentum that has been going on in the Jesus movement. That strategy backfires, as Peter's boldness, although leading him to jail, we said that God will lead us into trouble, but he will also lead us out of it. He provides us with tests, but he gives us the answers for us not just to pass the test, but to ace the test, to get 100% or A+++ on the test of life. So Peter's boldness, although leading him to jail, provoked his supernatural freedom, as he commands that the rest of the church leadership be informed of. Peter wants people to know that he wasn't freed because he had a great Queen's Council, or he wasn't freed because of the mercy of the Romans. He didn't have a great lawyer, earthly lawyer that is, and he didn't receive any grace from the Romans, but Yahweh himself intervened in his situation and even invented the first automatic gate to free Peter. And that's in Acts 12, the first 11 verses of Acts 12 tells us about the jailbreak of Peter. What would happen if we shared our stories with our families as males and our friends of how Jesus freed us from drugs or pride or promiscuity or alcohol or misogyny or idolatry, etc., deception. People who knew the old you and are now faced with the new you in your relationship with Jesus have questions and are often confused about your change. In this story, Rhoda left Peter in amazement, and she was a believer. So if believers can have questions about our freedom, or some can even doubt our freedom, what about worldlians or people who don't believe in the story of Jesus of Nazareth? Our freedom provides a great gospel witness or opportunity that we can exploit in our homes through writing testimonials and leaving them in a family diary and sharing them in devotions, etc. Of course, the Bible is just one big diary of the testimonials of the Hebrew people of God, saving them repeatedly to show that he loves them, to show his power. Now, shortly after Peter's miraculous release, Herod, who is a political leader who has overseen Jesus' assassination and that of others in the Jesus sect, was assassinated himself by Yahweh. Yah removes the obstacles to his people's freedom and uses their death as a testimony of his greatness, just like he did in Exodus with Pharaoh on Passover, century before Peter's jailbreak. So again, for today, our main point is that Yahweh frees us so we can reveal his power. Yahweh frees us so we can reveal his power, and that revelation of the power of God to free us from our slavery is to provoke others' boldness. And we're encouraging us as males to testify of the goodness of God in our own families, to look back at what God has saved us from. If we believe in Jesus, salvation is automatic. John 3:16 says, whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. We shall be saved from destruction. So those stories of salvation, we can share that with our family, with our friends, and that can be part of a testimonial, that of testimonies, written testimonies, or verbal testimonies that we can share with them in our family devotionals, etc., so that they can see the power of God at work and be bold enough to trust in God himself, trust in Jesus, his son, and to take risks to save others. So why rob God and this world of you and your family? And until next time, be nuclear.